Hello all and welcome back to our channel. And this is the second video on our British literature series, and in this video we are going to discuss on Middle English period or the Anglo-Norman period. And I've divided the period into two videos, and the first video is on the early Middle English period or the period before the birth of Chaucer, and the second video is on the age of Chaucer and the period after, which is known as the late Middle English period. And in this video, I'll be discussing on the historical background of the period, language of the period, and the literature of the period. So, without much delay, let's move on to the video on Middle English period. The first section of the video is on the historical background of the Middle English period. And about the historical background, the Middle English period, it extends from the Norman conquest of 1066 to the Renaissance of 16th century. And about the Norman conquest, it is usually considered as the inaugural moment of Middle English period in which King Harold was defeated by William the Conqueror. And can you guess the war in which King Harold was defeated by William the Conqueror? Yes, of course, you might have guessed it right. It is Battle of Hastings. So, now let's move on to find the major historical events that happened during the Middle English period. Of course, the first one is something that we have already discussed, and it is the Norman conquest of 1066, which is usually considered as the beginning for Middle English period. And the second major event of this period was the signing of a document which was described by Lord Denning as the greatest constitutional document of all times. Yes, of course, it is Magna Carta of 1215. Now let's see the third major event that happened during the time, and it is the Crusades of the medieval period, which almost extended from 1096 to 1291. And fourth major event was the Black Death, which was a bubonic plague that affected England in 1348 and several times later. And the fifth milestone during the Middle English period was the Hundred Years' War between France and England, which almost extended up to the reigns of 5 kings of England. Now, let's move on to find the language of the period. Around 1100, the English language began to lose its Germanic inflections from the Old English, and it starts to develop an identity of its own. And the major 4 dialects of the time are Southeastern from Kentish, Southwestern from West Saxon, Northern from Northumbrian, and the Mercian dialect of the Old English has developed into 2 dialects during the Middle English period. The first one is the East Midland dialect, and the second is the West Midland dialect of the Middle English period. And the standard form of English began to develop from the East Midland dialect, and it was also the dialect used by the father of English literature, Geoffrey Chaucer. Now, let's move on to find the major literary features and literary works of the period. And most of the works which were produced during the Middle English period were anonymous, and the major subgenres that existed during the Middle English period were the war literature, religious literature, and of course the romances. The romances again is divided into 2 subcategories, of course the love literature and also the knight's quest for courtly love and chivalry. Okay, until now we have discussed on the historical background of the period, the language of the period, and literary features of the period. So now let's move on to find the most important part, which is the literary works of the period. So the first category we are going to discuss is on religious literature or the didactic poetry. And the first work is the Omulum, which was written by Om, is an important work which comes under this category. Another important work which was an anonymous work is the Owl and the Nightingale, which also comes under religious literature. The next category is the Chronicles, and the most important work which comes under this category is Lyman's Brut, which is a poem of about 16,000 lines, and it tells the story of Britain from the landing of Brutus to the death of Cadwallader. And also Vases Arthurian Chronicles is another important work which comes under Chronicles, and also the works of Robert Manning of Brune also comes under Chronicles. And what makes Robert Manning's works different from other works of the time is that he has incorporated biographical elements into those works. At a time, most of the works existed as anonymous. And the last category is the alliterative verse, which comes into being around 14th century, almost close to the time of Chaucer. And the major works that can be classified under alliterative verse were Pearl, Purity, Sir Gawain, and the Green Knight. And with this, we have come to the end of our video on Middle English period, the period before Chaucer. And stay tuned for the coming videos. Hope you liked the video and thanks for watching.